our vodcast series on early childhood education. Today, we'll be talking about parent-preschool partnerships, and that is why I invited Singapore's most well-known dad influencer, father of two, a boy and a newborn girl, Adrian
I'm not here to crack lame jokes today, guys.
Adrian, right? Not Xiaoming.
Yes. Adrian. Today here is Adrian.
Okay, so in this podcast, I will be able to share perspectives of the teacher, then Adrian for sure as a parent, but we have industry experts today.
Woo!
Yeah,
Woo!
Dr. Cynthia, Miss Stacey, Miss Jane. Shall we start with a round of introductions?
I'm Cynthia. I have had the privilege of working with children as a teacher, and then after that as a centre principal, as a leader, which is I think when we met. And then after I had the chance to also do some curriculum development. So right now I work on a more HQ level and I get the chance to work with lecturers. So I find it quite a privilege to be able to sort of see the early childhood space from different perspectives over my career.
Right. Yeah. So for some context, right, they are all ACDA fellows.
I see.
That means they have a lot of experience. Yeah.
So time for me to ask some tough questions.
Okay, Miss Stacey.
I'm Stacey, and I've been in the industry for a very, very long time. So I work with preschool, the day-to-day operations, and do a bit of training as well. Yep.
Hello, I'm Jane. So very glad to be here with everyone today. Yay. I'm a mother of two school-going children. So they are 12 and 15. So both of them have really given me a deep perspective on being a parent and also being an early child professional. So throughout my career, I've also undertaken various teaching and leadership roles. And of course, each of these roles have also affirmed my conviction in early childhood. So I think this is like my 25th year of commitment to this fulfilling sector.
Is my introduction of you just now sufficient, or you have more to say?
Can lah. I need to talk about how good I'm a boss and then you can
Okay.
No.
But maybe my introduction, I'm Samantha. I'm also known as Ask Teacher Sam on Instagram. So today, our topic is on parent-preschool partnerships. Okay, so Adrian, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Okay.
What are your expectations of a preschool and your expectations of a preschool teacher?
Honestly, I must say, I've got huge respect for preschool teacher. I'm like, wow, I have a kid. I mean, I have a boy, then now I have a girl. Yeah, I mean, just managing him like alone, right? Just by myself, me, my wife. It's just kind of, spending time with him over the weekends is already like, it's like super tiring. It's a lot of learning on my own as a parent. So I can't imagine the kind of things that preschool teachers would have to equip themselves with to manage a whole classroom full of teachers. So really deep respect for preschool teachers. I think in terms of expectations, I'm thankful that there's preschool so that I also can take a break from parenthood sometimes. But also, I think honestly speaking, is kind of for me to be able to put my kid in a safe, nurturing environment. I feel like that is what preschool is here to help parents to do and to kind of help guide parents along. I think this is what preschool teachers also do, as part of their professions.
Wow, yeah. I like that his expectation is safe, nurturing, then you go do your job. Yeah. How about Jane? You have two children, right?
Yes.
Both in their teenage years.
Yes.
Really. How did you navigate being an early childhood practitioner yourself?
Yeah.
And then having children in their early years? How do you navigate parent-preschool partnerships then?
Yeah, so as a preschool educator, I've met many different parents, and there's actually a varying range of expectations. So some of the common expectations that a preschool educator may encounter would be things like parents wanting the best for their children. So did my child eat? Did my child sleep? Did my child is my child able to read or count? Yeah, and then of course when I became a mother, I would say that yes, I know absolutely what goes into supporting a child's development, but then there's this added layer of emotional investment which makes it totally different. Yeah, and if I think about my experience as a mother, I feel like wow, I've got this heightened sense of wanting to know and understand what goes on in my child's day, and then with that, coupled with a bit of anxiety and being more protective than I might have been as an educator. So to answer that question, I think as both a parent and also an educator, I can see how expectations overlap. Yeah, and I think what's really important is all that open communication, trust, and mutual respect. Yeah, that comes up in parent-teacher partnership.
Wow, yeah. That whole bit trust, relationships, and all that. We'll probably be unpacking that in today's podcast. But I just wonder, in this parent-preschool or parent-teacher realm, in terms of relationships, right? Do you feel a disconnect with your preschool teacher, like your child's preschool teacher? Or how's the relationship like? What are your perceptions or ideas behind this partnership?
I feel like with a partnership with like preschools and the teachers, it's a little bit like making friends. Yeah, I mean it starts off being a little bit like professional, like they will always say, feel free to kind of reach out to me if any questions, when it comes to how your kid is like in school. But it takes a while to warm up, and for me, like when they ask, I'm like, oh no, nothing is good at the start. Yeah, until like you really start getting comfortable, like you really know the teacher, and then there's like little casual interactions here and there that you really start developing a little bit of that rapport, trust, that bond, and I think that is where the real chit chats like can happen, to see how can we support, my kid to grow better in school, and same for when he's like at home. Yeah. So I feel like that is a little bit of that kind of almost like making friends, or I would say maybe like a little bit of that dating kind of like process to kind of know. Not there's nothing going on. Yeah, but just it's really like getting comfortable lah. I think especially when for me, I think maybe people cannot tell, but I'm quite an introvert. So I don't tend to open up like that easily. I'm sure for a lot of parents are the same as well. Yeah, it's strictly more professional at the start before it gets a little bit more like friendly, and I think that's where you can really uncover a lot of stuff that can be helpful for the
I
kid.
really like what you said about the getting to know, because we know that our relationships with families is not transactional, right? Which is why sometimes people might say, oh, your parent is your customer, but actually we know our parents aren't really our customers. They are partners. I mean, I think that's why the very intentional word of partners, right, is about shared goal. I mean, the shared child, right, and then we both want the best. So that whole getting to know, I will say, is actually quite crucial lah, and the
I
foundation.
actually like the idea of you saying friends, because the basis of friendship is trust, is relationship, and I think that's the most important thing. When you're friends, you feel you can be comfortable to share things. There's no fear, there are no boundaries. So I think that's when it's easier to build trust, and I feel that it's a two-way street. So it's very nice to hear you say that.
Yeah. Can I just share also? As a preschool teacher, when I have children in my classroom, right? I think parents don't know this, but we know a lot about parents' personal lives.
Oh.
Yes,
you do.
When children start talking, like, I know what happened last night, that kind of thing.
Beware what you share.
Yeah. So I guess that really comes, like, in essence, it's a positive kind of experience. But as we dive deeper into parent-preschool partnerships, right, there are definitely some sensitivities. Some difficult challenges to navigate. For me as a teacher, I asked Adrian this recently. I said, like, actually, how do you feel really about parent-teacher partnerships? Because for me, with the parents I work with, I always end my messages as, hey, feel free to tell me more about your child and let me know how I can support you. But sometimes I feel like the parents will not share until there is a problem. Yeah. So I think there's also value for parents to just proactively share, like, oh, you know what, he's doing this now. I'm just wondering, like, how best can I enrich his learning? And I'm more than sure, right, that teachers will want to give input to share, like you mentioned just now, it's really a partnership, to navigate children's lives, children's development.
So I think with what you shared, Sam, you're the perfect parent, because we welcome parents to always share their thoughts or observations of children at home. And I think when, say, if Adrian or another parent says, oh, I noticed that my child is really quite anxious about going to school or starts crying in the morning, then that opens the door for the educator to really also share her observations of what's been going on. Maybe the child might be uncomfortable with the health checks, or it could be something else that's been happening. So then that really allows us to have that two-way communication and to ensure that there's consistency in what's happening at home and also in school. Then we can really discuss like common strategies to help the child.
Actually, with communication with your preschool teacher, right, do you feel like you have a need to actively share, like, this is what happened, that sort of small talk? Do you do it or no?
I feel like with I don't know, with parents, at least for myself, we only tend to only share when we have issues at home. It's like, hey, cannot fix. You experience something like that, like in school also. Is there like a similarity? And it is quite interesting, I think, when you start, sharing some of these like little things that's happening at home, and you find similarity and maybe sometimes also differences, like how they behave in school is very different from how they like behave like at home. So I feel like that is where it really takes that rapport and trust, and maybe also in the kind of questions that maybe some of the preschool teachers have are asking. Like, so I think back to Sam's example, like if a teacher asks me like, feel free to share with me, or reach out to me if you have any issues, it's a little bit too broad and generic, and I tend to just treat it as like a, it's almost like a hello, how are you doing? You just say, oh, I'm fine, kind of thing. Yeah, but if it's like really more like specific to something that's happening, like in schools, like, oh, do you notice something like that happening with Zachary, like back at home? I think that also encourages me to share like a lot more. So I feel like that is where I think the framing of some of these like questions, the way that the preschool teachers approaches us as parents, I think it helps a lot in trying to break the ice and slowly unpackage some of these good and bad things to help the kids develop and grow.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we all know in our training, right, research has shown that as long as we have a positive parent-teacher relationship, it's actually, it contributes to children's lifelong success. And then, so I thought it was a super good point, because when he shared that, I'm like, yes, I should have asked very specific questions, and then it will start the conversations. So I suppose, right, as teachers in the field or like pre-service teachers, if you are worried about parent-teacher partnerships, like think about how you can script what you want to say if you are having difficulty with it, and then for mentor teachers to also help with your beginning teachers to share more about how you can navigate parent-teacher relationships.
Yeah, actually one phrase that just came to mind, right, is for teachers, it's also thinking about connect with the parents rather than feel like you always have to give content. I mean, I say that's a starting point, because if I want to get to know you, I mean, that genuine interest of actually who are you as a parent? I mean, if I could quickly recall, to me, one of my significant experiences as a childcare teacher and then a leader, right, is, so I still remember till today, right, I had a child, also similar like you, new parent, I mean, at that point in time, the child had to come into infant care. And then you roughly know, right, so the getting to know is, we know that for this parent, she's a first time parent, first time coming to infant care, right? And then we could sense, right, I mean, we allow her to come in, see how your child is doing. Then, like by the I can't remember, maybe first week or what, then the parent had to sort of take a step back. But you could tell from the body language that there was just something that maybe was bothering her a bit, right? She was lingering. I remember going to the foyer and just say, hey, how are you doing? And she shared a little bit. I was like, okay, wait, actually, how are you feeling today about your child coming?
Wow.
Then the tears started coming down already. Yeah, because I think the parent was holding just so much emotion, and I'm sure parents go through lots of emotions just thinking about putting your very young child in, So, I mean, the things that we'll be talking about, just getting to know, but I think more importantly is the space we come from now, which is genuinely wanting to learn more about you as a family.
There's also this shift of mindset for educators. I think they need to kind of understand that to take that first step, to actually have that conversation. Sometimes there's this fear that what if the parent gets upset? What if the parent expects more than I can deliver? Then how do I then navigate through this? But I think having that mindset shift to understand that maybe if I get to know you as a friend and who you are as a human, you have feelings, you have needs, then maybe that is a conversation starter. Because you're very right, Adrian, when you say that as parents, sometimes there's really nothing to talk about. I just want to send my child to school, take them home. I want them to be safe. I want them to be well cared for. But there's no specific thing to talk to you about. I mean, I'm rushing off to somewhere after that. So I think it's the educator, actually being a bit more observant, to actually look at how the parent's feeling that day. Like the last thing you would want is for a parent to be not in a very good space, and then you ask them questions like, I need to tell you that your child's not doing very well in this, that. And then the parent is like, who are you to tell me? And then they're not in a very good space. So I think finding the right time, space, to share certain more sensitive feedback about the child is also crucial.
Just thinking back, separation anxiety, we always think about the child, right? But we forget about the parents.
It's equally tough.
Right?
The kids is screwing over there.
Yeah.
I mean, my boy is still crying like half the time. But I mean, I just see it as a good thing that he wants to spend time with me. Even though he loves his school, he still wants to still be like with me and my wife. So I was like, okay lah. It's heartbreaking. I think parents, they feel like a lot, and they have to like peel themselves away from their little ones to go to work or whatsoever.
As a teacher, I just realized that there are no difficult parents, just very difficult situations that we're trying to navigate. I had a parent confront me once, say like, my child is new to your classroom. I can see from the window that he's not being attended to. Then in my first thought, I was a beginning teacher, so I didn't know how to navigate that. But I wanted to say, right, I have 4 other crying children too. But then the reality is I needed to address her need first, like to connect with her and to establish this trust. reciprocity, respect with her. And then so I told her like, I hear you, like I will do my best. And then her child became my boyfriend. Yeah. I mean, we shared the same birthday. Yeah.
How many boyfriends do you have in school?
Yeah, but the mom would share with me after, like, oh, you know, he loves you so much, and then he'll buy me flowers. Yeah, that sort of thing. Yeah, and it really is framing, you know, your perspective of parent-teacher partnership to foster positive ones. Yeah.
I think what you brought also is giving each other the space and time to build the relationship. Because sometimes I think we may have like expectations that straight away because you're in my class now, the relationship is great. And I think exactly what you're saying, it takes time to build, to get to know. And I think, you know, for educators, give yourselves the time and put in the effort. For parents also, I think giving yourselves the time and also making the effort to get to know.
I feel like
the
even
teacher.
parents can play a part in this, because like, my boy will come back and tell me, I like Tang Lao Shi, I like this teacher, and then I'll go back and tell the teacher that. And I think that also makes them feel validated in terms of like the work that they have done for the kids. So I think parents can also maybe play an active role, you know, share some of this feedback, you know, some of these things really I feel like help.
And I think we appreciate that.
Sure.
It's these little moments.
Yeah, well, these are all the, you know, very happy parts of early childhood education, parent-teacher partnership. But now, you know, we don't want to disregard the fact that this is a very tragic case, but we're going to talk about how do you feel when you see this news come out or social media postings about certain things.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, as a parent, it's always very heartbreaking. I mean, even if it is not your kid, when you just try to close your eyes and imagine what has happened, then I think we're entrusting the schools and the teachers to take care of our little ones. So it's really tough to see some of these things. And I guess I'm just also wondering, what more can be done, and I think what active steps may have, you know, schools actually taken to as much as possible provide our little ones with like a safe environment when we put them in school.
Yeah.
I think it's equally heartbreaking for us as educators when we read about these news, and really one is still too many when we read about all these.
Yes.
So I think one thing is that, you know, in early childhood, really we take child safety to be a priority, and we do not condone any form of child mismanagement actually.
And when you talk about that, you're talking about any form, like psychological
yes,
safety, physical safety.
Yeah, so it could really refer to any form of child mismanagement or safety aspect. And I think when it comes to the question, you know, what more can be done. So before we even get to the tipping point, what's really important is the proactive approach that we take at the centres. Because when we say that we take a proactive approach, what do we really do? So maybe this part might not be seen or be visible to others who may be out of the sector. So when centre leaders actually do their rounds in the mornings or talk to parents, they also check in on the teachers' well-being. So for educators, they have take, like what Sam mentioned, right, a large class of children of various learning needs. So with that, sometimes it's normal for educators to feel like they're in distress, and for centre leaders it's really important to pick up these early signs of distress, because even for a child, the child may be new to the centre, may need a bit more support. So do we then think of strategies to put the child in a smaller group or to support the educator? So if an educator is really showing signs of burnout or being overwhelmed, then of course the most immediate thing to do is to offer support, not wait till it gets to that tipping point. So then in the unfortunate event that something does happen, or even if it's a suspected case, what typically happens is that the educator will be removed from that situation so that we do not allow the child's safety to be compromised.
Right.
And not to mention, we also have a code of ethics. I think it's important. So this document is shared with all preschools in Singapore, and they even have international code of ethics about how children should be treated, the values and the principles behind the behaviors of children. So it's a guiding document. I mean, what Jane said is correct. It's the actions at the end of the day about what we do. But at least if there's a guiding document, I think even novice teachers that join, they would know, hey, these are the principles and these are the values behind certain behaviors, positive behaviors that we have to display with children. So I think that's so critical.
Yeah, so the image that comes to mind actually is 3 concentric circles, right? And then taking what Stacey and Jane was talking about. So right at the outermost is what we are always asking, what's the policy like, or documents or not, which is exactly what you're saying there are, right? There's the code of ethics.
Yes.
And then we're talking about right inner in that circle, which is the educator. You know, things we say, you know, being able to support educator, go for training, and we do that. Pre-service, we have training that we talk about how to work with families, interpersonal skills, well-being. And then now also, right, I mean, it's continuing education, but I think there's also that middle circle, which is the workplace support, which is exactly what Jane has pointed out. Yeah, I think are we creating a climate and a space where educators feel safe to also tell you how they're doing today, right? I mean, imagine having a leader whom you can go to and then just say, hey, today something happened at home, right? I might be feeling a little off today. And I think it's really that mutual trust also within a center to know that you've got each other's backs. So there will be good days, there will also be bad days because we're all human, right?
Yes.
But we all of us want to do the best for the children, and we need to create that space for each other.
And to further that thought,
Yeah.
so I still remember back when I was running a centre as a leader, I had a staff who came in a bit unkempt, and she's usually not like that. So she doesn't come to school being disorganized, or she's very neat, very tidy. So for leaders, I think having the skills to pick certain telltale signs is important. Like, when is my staff having burnout? Is something wrong? So I think I called her into the room and just find out how she's doing. So the first question I asked was, how are you doing? And then she just burst out in tears. And she said, I'm not doing well at all, but you're the first person in so long that has just checked in to ask me how am I doing. So that's when I realized, hey, this person needs support. And this is what I mean, that first line of contact, to really give that support system so that it doesn't delve into a situation where she's frustrated and certain not very positive behaviors are exhibited. So it's that, finding that moment.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, the worst thing about incidents, or accidents that happen within your care, in your classroom, the guilt that we might face when it happens is it can stay, it can linger. To be very honest, I remember every single incident that happened that was unfortunate. Yeah, some I could have controlled better and then I adjust. Some I could not control but received very, how do I put it? When parents came in and then it was just very harsh, I understand, I don't want to discount parents' anxieties regarding the situation, but it was so traumatizing to me that I will always remember that situation. As much as we try our best to keep our children safe, I think parents also need to know that we don't like things to happen to your children. We want to protect them as best as we can, but there are some situations that are just beyond our control. And like what you guys mentioned, it's really that workplace support to keep me from feeling prevent me from feeling like my career is doomed after one incident. Yeah, and with that note, I really appreciate positive parent-teacher partnerships that I had with the parents that I worked with. So on this note, right, what are some boundaries that we can have, healthy boundaries, and what exactly are safety concerns in the classroom?
So I think, to me, a healthy boundary is really a respectful boundary. So, like what you mentioned, right? So instead of being harsh with a teacher or an educator, when something happens, the first thing we can do as parents is really to ask a question. Yeah, because when we ask, I think we will then seek that clarity that we require. So say, in an example where there may be a child who's being alone in the center and someone walks past that void deck and starts to take a video, then of course for me is a no-no, because that's a sure way to erode trust. And we talk a lot about educators and parents being equals and really playing this equally vital role in this partnership. So when we look at that boundary, I think it's really staying calm and composed when something takes place, to go to the teacher and ask, actually what's happening, instead of jumping to conclusions first or going straight to social media. That would be the boundary that we can look at in terms of respectful boundaries. And I think not just looking at the parent, but also the educator's perspective, because perhaps the educator might have a valid explanation as to why the child was alone. Maybe she was somewhere in the classroom but not seen by the parent from a specific angle. So then that allows the educator to have an opportunity to explain. Yeah, so I think these are really important when it's a two-way street for communication.
Right.
Yeah.
Adrian, what about your perspective? In this situation, when we want to try and align parent expectation and school's expectations, what would be helpful for you all? Is it like a workshop or more communication?
I think parents need to get the right mindset when it comes to preschool teachers and preschools and what they are here to do, and and the fact that even though yes we are paying the school, we're paying the preschool teachers to help take care of our kids, that even ourselves as parents, when we spend time with our kids, accidents do happen. There are some things like what you say, that you don't expect, and it happens, your kids fall down and then they start bleeding. And given the fact that a teacher has to manage like a classroom of like kids, incidents or accidents are bound to happen even with the best environment or safe environment that is kind of created. So I think having that understanding, I feel like then you can empathize. I think as parents you can empathize a little bit better with teachers, and that they also have the best interest of like our kids like at heart. And sometimes accidents do happen, and let's like what you guys said, let's talk about like what exactly happened, what can be done like better to prevent such an incident from happening like again. So I feel like shifting that mindset and kind of understanding that not just because you pay money then they expect it to be like perfect, professional that is supposed to execute at 100%, taking care of your kid and kid only, and that is supposed to be safe from all the harms in the world. I feel like having that realistic mindset, I feel like is important. Even though that said, whenever my boy falls down and he is bleeding from his lips like in school, it's still, it's still, my heart is still painful.
For sure.
Yeah. But I feel like having that trust, then I will understand that, it is something that, is unfortunate. Let's try to see how can we do better.
Yes. Actually, from a teacher's perspective, I really appreciate the empathy. I really like what you said about how it's not transactional, like I'm paying you and hence you deliver me a service. But with early child education and relationships surrounding the child, it's so important that we provide children with that space to understand that, hey, my mommy and daddy are close to my teacher. My preschool is a safe space for me to thrive.
There's a reason why we always say, right, parents are children's first teachers. And that's really where all the values are imparted at home. And also I think there's really a role that parents can play, and another role that educators can play in terms of ensuring that we both bring something to the table for the interests of the child.
I think what you just shared is again, right, to the starting point must be the same, which is it's not a customer to a person delivering services. The child is not a commodity. The child is a human being, right? And I think again your very example to say it really is a partnership, right? Of getting to know. And then Jane, you're talking about if we come from a place of curiosity first rather than blaming, right? Which is, hey, actually what happened, rather than, hey, did you not? I think that completely changes the entire relationship. Even not talking about parent school, just in general, relationships, right? We allow each other to also share what's going on.
And I think appreciation, that value of appreciation, we talked about how parents appreciate teachers in different ways. I think it's also nice for teachers to appreciate parents. And I say that because when parents shares with you things that happen at home, it's also us going to that safe space. The parent is open enough to share, hey, I just scolded my child, I just gave my child timeout, he's not feeling very good in school today. I think it's for the educator to say, hey, I appreciate you sharing this with me. And let's work together. So that's when the partnership, the friendship, the relationships can happen. So I think, again, reciprocity for appreciation.
Yes. Do you have any questions about how to foster like strong parent-teacher partnerships?
In my mind I was like, wow, if I can take some of the teachers out, then maybe we go and drink coffee. Break the ice a little bit, chit-chat a little bit, let's talk a little bit more about my boy in school. Those are, I think, questions that have like really beyond that few minutes that pick up and drop off. Like, how can I really meaningfully build a stronger rapport with my sons, like teachers? I think those are genuine questions that I have.
Actually, what you raised was a very real thing. Like for us as teachers, when the opportunity for communication is at arrival or at dismissal, sometimes we don't even see the parent at all because maybe grandma, grandpa or helper drops them off. Then how then should I foster this parent-teacher partnership if I don't see you at all?
I think just now, Adrian, you did mention that, you would like to know what happens in school. You'd like to know how to actually ensure that you reinforce this learning at home. Actually, the term parent volunteers, volunteering for field trips, coming into school like a day in the life of a preschool, but it's a parent attending the preschool. Then you kind of see the routine. You kind of understand what the child goes through day to day. You kind of understand what the teacher goes through day to day. The kind of stresses or challenges that they face having a group of children running around in the classroom. Then somehow you develop that empathy. You also develop that understanding that, it's not easy. But then again, I also see what are some of the things they do in school that I can reinforce at home,
actually that would be pretty interesting.
So
Being alive,
nice,
get a
guys.
taste of it.
You want to try?
Sure. Maybe not a full day, maybe a couple hours. But I think it'll be cool. So I think having a glimpse or having a taste of it beyond, I would say, the parent-teacher, that kind of session would be interesting.
Some parents become teachers after that.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
How do I sign up?
Is there a list now?
Well, I'm reminded of a very positive experience I had as a student teacher. So I was involved in their orientation day. And in that orientation day, they sat parents down, and then each class had to establish their own community norms. So shared values across teacher and parent. I think that's a fantastic start to a year. If you have established these norms from the start, right, and you trust that teachers are doing their best, then parents also feel that sense of security. I think it will make the entire year so much more productive and healthy for the teacher, the parent, and the child.
Yeah, I think it's like coming to the same page together. I mean, we don't have to agree and say yes to each other on everything. I don't think that's what a healthy relationship looks like actually. Right, healthy relationship is one that you feel safe enough to say, hey, you know, I'm not so comfortable with that. And actually, I mean, I recall in working with the teachers, it's something we say. If I hear nothing from the parents, sometimes I get a little bit concerned because I ask myself, is it because we haven't reached out enough? Is it that the parent does not feel safe enough to say something? So I'll say it's not exactly a bad thing when parents come to tell you things. So going back, the whole idea of we get to a same page as to what does it mean to communicate. For example, preschool teachers are on the go most of the day, right? So it's sometimes we give phone calls time to time, but we know and we tell them, usually if I call you, it's going to be around, 12 plus to before 3, I might pop you a call, right? And maybe we can't call every parent every day, but we ourselves know, right? Maybe for that week, that 1 or 2, I just drop them a call and then just say, hey, everything's going all right. And sometimes they appreciate that because something in the morning might just have been quite traumatic for the parent and child. I mean, if they were both, if the child was crying and the parent was not comfortable, I think little gestures like that make sense also, and it helps people at ease.
Yeah, it's such a good suggestion, like to intentionally schedule certain calls, even if there's nothing happening, just call and say like, hey, I'm Teacher Sam, this is what's happening, like everything's going well. Because for me, every time at nap time, that will be when I do reporting. Yeah, so I feel like majority of the time I contact parents when I was a teacher was to deliver bad news.
Usually true.
Right.
Yeah, if
So
I
you
receive
have
a
call
call,
that,
like,
you
oh my
scared.
god, something might happen. He's sick
Exactly.
or he fell down.
Exactly.
Yeah, I would not. I mean, last I would expect is like some good news or some happy things that happen in school.
That would be nice, right?
But I think the whole point is both sides know what to expect. Because going back to just now we talked about volunteering and seeing things in action. The whole point of it is, as a parent, you don't get to spend 9 o'clock to 6 o'clock with us, right? You mostly see morning what it looks like, children crying, some children are okay. And after that, you see the same thing again in the evening. Maybe children are happier, but you miss out that whole part. And I think not seeing things or not knowing what's happening creates anxiety sometimes. It creates uncertainty, right? So I think on our point of it is we try to give you a sense of what it looks like, and that's why sometimes we send pictures, we tell you what's going on. I think it's all about just being able to help parents feel at ease and to know roughly what's happening in school.
And I think mitigating those anxieties is really important because as an educator, I made the same mistake as well because I always call parents when something happens. So now, of course, when I think back, right, it's so important to also share good news, positive things. Maybe the child ate really well today, or made a new friend, because then parents really know, okay, I expect a call whether it's good or bad, right? And then you have enough brownie points that you've chalked up because when you then deliver or have to say something that might not be as positive, the parent doesn't go like, oh, why did this happen? Because there's already been this relationship that's been established.
So being an educator is professionalism, right? I think we keep saying time and time again, being an early child educator is professional because we do things like that, right? We have to go get to know the parent. Like some parents I know I won't call because we know that for them that period of time they're at work, right? But maybe you just drop a one-liner email just to say, hey, just check in, everything's okay. So that whole idea of really getting to know our families is that great effort that I think early child educators put in and center leaders put in as well.
And the different modes of communication actually, because parents are also very different. So they may appreciate a different form of communication. Some parents prefer emails, maybe just drop a quick text in the parent portal or the comm book. Whereas other parents like that face-to-face, really that personal touch during dismissal time. So I think really different strokes for different folks when it comes to the preschool sector too.
But I think it's also establishing that balance because of course there's different platforms and then of course educators will actually say, hey, where can I find the time to do all this?
That's right,
I'm
that's
so
right.
busy during the children's nap time, planning lessons, I'm doing all these things.
Yes.
I think at the end of the day, it's finding that balance, but also ensuring that we stay organized and planned. Because I think even some educators, we might have this habit of procrastinating. We wait until like, okay, June is coming, that's portfolio season.
Yes.
Wow, then I chow all the portfolios. So I think it's important to find that balance and also ensure that we plan our time well, so that
Yes.
we prioritize the things that are important, but yet not neglect that human connection with parents. Yeah.
I think as teachers, what would be helpful is if our leader were to support us in that sense, to tell us, okay, don't overdo things, manage your well-being, so we don't burn out. And, wow, we've learned a lot about parent-teacher partnerships, the benefits of it. So I think it's good that we have discourse like this, like dialogues like this, to address what goes on behind parent-teacher partnership, teacher well-being. With that, I think we're at the end of our vodcast.
Ooh.
Yeah, do you all have any closing messages that you would like to share on the topic of parent-teacher partnerships?
I think it's important to have reciprocity. It's not just for the educators or for the parents, but it's both. So I think whether it's in that early childhood space, the preschool space with children, or even any other profession, I think if we establish respect, trust, and appreciation for both parties, I think that can come a long way in parent-teacher partnerships. Yeah.
And I think for me, it's really about building a positive social emotional space, one that's really psychologically safe for both the parent and the educator, and that's nurturing too. So sure, there'll be parents, feeling too tired on certain days, or educators feeling too overwhelmed to talk on other occasions. I think what's really important is to ensure that there's this ongoing time and efforts invested into this relationship or this partnership, because that's what would really help build a very strong, sustainable and collaborative partnership.
Actually, my takeaway is human connection. I think like through this conversation, really just realizing that everyone in this ecosystem is important, and we're all people, right? We all seek to want to do better for our children. And I guess my greatest hope and wish, even when we all go back to centres tomorrow, is to just see parents as people, and then for parents to also see teachers as people.
Wow. You have any closing messages? You're Singapore's most well-known
I think it is good to really know what, from the organisation side of things, how, the early childhood space is really thinking about how to empower teachers a little bit better, how can we, nurture kids a little bit better, how can we involve parents a little bit better. I feel like that is such an interesting insight, because I think for me it is a very collaborative process. It needs to be a collaborative process, because most of the time my kids spend his day in school. So I think knowing and understanding this space a little bit more, I think it helps parents. So I think today, thank you so much for sharing with me. I feel like I've learned a lot more, and I feel like it's important, and I think preschool teachers have enormous and important tasks.
Thank you for recognizing that.
Yeah, it's a privileged position we don't take for granted.
Yes. And with that, I want to express my gratitude to parents who intentionally want to foster positive partnerships with teachers. And I also want to encourage teachers who are kind of in my position, where we feel a lot of guilt because of past incidents. The onus is on us to stay professional, to take care of our mental well-being, so we don't cause anything the consequences that come with burnout is detrimental. And so be proactive about the things that you do to guard your mental well-being. So ask for help if you need help. And yes, with that, we are at the end of our episode. Thank you very much for watching. We hope you enjoyed your time here at beansTALK. Bye.
Thank you.